Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I have some updates for you guys. I have been getting so many plants, like more than I even really realized until I literally just sat down to write them all. And I've gotten rid of some of them, not too many, but just some that were gifted to me and I just didn't really like. I do also have some new plants that I got to show you at the end of this video. I know I've been getting a lot of plants, but last month was actually my birthday, and so I have some more plants to show you. Not as much as like before, but we just gotta reel it back in because this is too much. Okay, so starting with one of the first plants that I got in 2023. I don't remember when I got this, but I know it was pretty early on. It is my philodendron gigas. I did recently chop it. This thing has been growing amazingly for me. Like, I have no complaints, but this plant was on my wish list for a very long time, like a pretty long time, and it's hard for me to even believe that this is in my hands right now because I have truly wanted this for so long. If velvet leaf philodendrons are your thing, get this and you will not regret it. It has given me 2 leaves, I believe, so it popped out this leaf recently and it's currently working on another one, and I'm really excited. I do want to experiment with propagating this just a little bit more, just so that I fully understand what I'm doing. I did recently move this into my plant shelf back here, so it is getting some good humidity and light. I can imagine that it's going to bounce back really good. And yeah, nothing else to really say on this one. It's a lot shorter now just because I did chop it and I had to cut off some of the moss pole to make it fit in this shelf behind me. With this bundle of plants, I actually ended up getting them from Christina, which I showed her TikTok page in that video. I'll put it up again just in case. I got it from her and she actually brought me so many other plants. She brought me a pink spot syngonium, which I had in a plant design for a little bit, and then it just kind of didn't end up working out, and so I had to unpot it and just like, it was just really by itself. There was no really design aspect into it. It was literally just in a plastic pot. And so I decided to gift it to a friend because I was not enjoying it as much as I would like. Recently I've realized, like, aren't I kind of wasting my money if I'm just buying something to give it away? Like, it's not even for me to fully enjoy it. But I've realized that, and I didn't buy this plant, but this is just something that I've been thinking about for a while. It's not a waste, because if I were to try and keep that plant in my collection, it would die, and then it would just literally be a waste. Like, that money would just wither away. But when I'm giving my plants to other people, it's, you know, they're really going to appreciate that plant more than I ever did, and they're gonna love it more than I ever did. So I'd rather give it to someone else knowing that they are actually gonna put their all into that plant, instead of like me just letting it sit there and sort of wither away. My Burl Marks Fantasy. I actually do still have this. It was also in that plant design with the syngonium, but I decided to chop it up. I don't know why, I've been struggling to root this thing. This is the water propagation, and it hasn't been wanting to push out roots. It did push out one, and then it just ended up rotting away, so I was like, okay. And then ever since then, it's just kind of been a struggle. I tried putting it in sphagnum moss, don't think it liked that, so I put it in water again, and hopefully it picks up from there. I do have 2 wet sticks in like my terrarium thing where I have like my begonias and stuff. After seeing how big this plant can get and just the more mature leaves, I really want this in my collection. Like, if none of these cuttings work out, I will be going to purchase one because, well, one, I have an actual design planned for it. I really want this plant, and it's crazy because when I first got it, I was like, oh, like, I don't even know that I want this. And then I really started looking into it. I think I watched Only Plants video on the Burl Marks Fantasy, and it just made me like, it made me wake up pretty much, and I like realized like, okay, I really want this plant in my collection. The next one is my jungle vine, or my Cissus amazonica. This was in its own plant design video. I featured it. I've had it in my cloche for a while now. This loved that plant design a little bit too much. Like, the roots were literally just seeping out the bottom, and they started to like want to swirl around the bottom of the cloche, which in theory isn't bad, but I feel like it's such a small plant design for such a big cloche. I just wish I had a better setup for it. Like, if I had a like greenhouse cabinet or like an Exoterra, I would definitely keep it there and just like stick it up on the side of the Exoterra no problems. Like I didn't mind keeping that, but I feel like just because I know that I can use the cloche in a more effective manner, I didn't want to keep it in that design. So yeah, I decided to move it into pawn again. I'm retrying, and it sort of seems to be taking, not really, I don't know, still figuring it out. But I'm also trying to get it adjusted to my room conditions, because this plant has been accustomed to like high humidity for way too long. I don't even understand how like it happened so quickly. I don't know. I put it in a cloche, in my smaller cloche, as like a like design aspect. Like I really liked how it looked in that cloche in like my small shot glass, and then it just, since then, it's just been like wanting high humidity. So yeah, it's kind of my fault. But yeah, this thing hasn't grown too much. It did grow this smaller vine here. I'm not really focused on like sizing this up like the biggest it can be. I have seen the more mature leaves of this plant at my job. Like we have this plant there, and I'm kind of interested to see if I can get it that big. But I've heard plenty of people say that this thing just likes to throw out like really, really small leaves. And so we'll see where this ends up. But as of right now, it's not like the most thriving plant right now, but it's also not like dying. So I have hope for this time in pawn. The next one that I have to show you guys is the cup of cuttings that I got. I had a Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, a Pinarti partita, and then the Albo standeliana. I still have the Albo standeliana and the Pinarti partita. You can kind of see it here. The Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, I actually, it was like a 2-node wet stick, and so I chopped it in half, and I just kept the bottom piece that was rooted. And it turns out that that bottom piece didn't have an auxiliary bud, so I just ended up throwing it away. So I no longer have that one. The Albo standeliana is actually in here as well. I'm kind of just letting them root up until I figure out like what to do with them. I do have 2 other wet sticks of the Albo standeliana in like a really, really small cloche by my window. If those do root up, I think that I will pot it up. I do really like the Albo standeliana. I've seen some at work. I think the Aurea is also really, really pretty. I wouldn't mind having that one either, but obviously the prices are like way too out there. But yeah, the Albo standeliana I'm not mad at all. The Pinarti partita I'm actually gifting to friends. I don't know what it is, but monsteras, I don't know if you guys notice this, but I don't really have a lot of monsteras. I don't think I have. I'm just not realizing that I don't have any monsteras besides these 2. And so this monstera Pinarti partita, I don't mind the more mature leaves. I don't mind it. I like how it looks, but I don't like the immature leaves, and I don't have the like want to size it up into something that's like really spectacular and beautiful and like those more mature leaves. I don't really have the energy for this plant to want to size it up, so I'd rather give it to some other people who are going to appreciate it a lot more, which are my friends. Like I was saying before, I would rather give a plant away to someone that I know is going to enjoy it rather than keep it and just kind of like not enjoy it and just slowly kill it. So yeah, that's where I feel with this plant. I think the Albo standeliana is going to stay in my collection. I just kind of have to wait it out and see like what I want to do with it, if it'll be full. If anything, maybe I'll put it in the plant design that I'm planning for the Bromarks Fantasy as well. The one thing that I will say is I've heard that they throw out a lot of runners, like a lot of runners. So I am just kind of like a little bit sketched out on that. I don't want to like pot it up and have it be trailing and then it just like isn't really happy. In that video, I purchased my El Choco. I did get another one, which I'm not mad at. I don't regret it whatsoever. This plant has made me realize why I fell in love with it in the first place. And I think seeing it and owning it and experiencing the new growths are 2 different things. Seeing it in like pictures, like you appreciate it, but when you grow it, oh my god, like you guys, I am so proud of this plant. Look at this leaf. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but if you look at, this was the leaf that it had when I got it. Okay, it's not anything too big. And then it threw out this leaf, which was already in the cataphyll when I first got it. You know, it's a pretty big substantial leaf. I'm not mad at this either. This one I grew this plant. I grew this leaf, and you can just look at the magnificence. Is that a word? Magnificence? Magnificent? you can look at the magnificent leaf and appreciate this, but like I don't regret getting this plant whatsoever. And you can already see how tall it is as well. When I first got it, it was like so tiny, and some of the older leaves are dying off. It did get some root rot just because I moved it into no drainage. I've heard plenty of people say that they think this plant is kind of overrated and it was just kind of overhyped and stuff like that. I was definitely on that bandwagon as well, and then I just sort of bought it again, gave it another chance. I think that I would say that this is one of the easiest plants to size up. I feel like it's kind of biased, or like it's kind of, the scales are kind of tipped just because I did get this when it was in caterpillar stage already, which I didn't even realize until like way after. But yeah, I did get this when it was already in a caterpillar stage, so maybe it's easier when it's more mature. If you are having trouble with yours, I would definitely recommend to get another specimen, maybe that's a little bit more mature. My other El Choco, the one that I imported, actually ended up dying. I just let it die after I got this one. I was like, I just don't really have the willpower to make you live, so it was like this tiny too, like I didn't even know what to do with it. Looking back now, I think that the issue that I was having was not enough light. Propagations need a immense amount of light. Not immense, but like they definitely need light, because that's their only source of food when they're in propagation, is the energy that they're getting from the leaf, and that energy is going to be what makes the plant push out those roots. So kind of my fault, kind of just inexperience. I feel a lot more confident now with all of these plants, really. Definitely have a deeper understanding of what these plants want and what causes things to go bad, and I'm so happy to have this. I have repotted this twice now, and fingers crossed nothing has gone awry besides like these two leaves, which weren't due to the repotting. It was more so due to the substrate that it was in, and it was just rotting those roots. But this moss pole, however, lovely, like chef's kiss. I freaking love this, and I'm not mad at all of this root growth. Alright, and the second plant that I showed in that video was this Tradescantia Pink Princess, or the tricolor. I actually showed you guys two plants. One of the plants was my boyfriend's mom's. She actually gave her two plants, so I turned her plant into two plants. I gave her one that was a kokedama, and then I gave her another one that was in a pond like this. And this one is so bushy and full. If you guys can see that, it's in my little butt shot glass, and I freaking love this. I actually just potted up some cuttings in here as well. That's why it's like really full. I love this plant so much. I think that it took a while for it to really get adjusted to my conditions, because it wasn't really pushing out leaves, it wasn't really growing, and even now I feel like it's still kind of struggling a little bit to push out those leaves, but I can definitely see that it's like facing the light. I have it in this shelf as well, so I can very much well see that it's like facing the light. It wants to live, so I am just sort of leaving it alone, watering it whenever it's dry or whenever there's no reservoir. And oh my god, I love this plant so much. I really do. I truly do. And oh my god, it's actually throwing out aerial roots. Tradescantia is a plant that I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talking about them, and it's because I feel like it's mainly because they can get pretty leggy if you're not giving them enough light. Like the bottom leaves, especially on this one, I've noticed that a lot of the bottom leaves have kind of fallen off. Like I can see this one right here. This one is pretty leggy, and I feel like the key is to chop them, repot them, like not chop them and repot them, but chop them, root those cuttings, and then pot those cuttings into the more fuller plant to get this really like full bushy look. And then also give them enough light to keep up with those older leaves, and then also nutrients. Nutrients I feel like is also really important when it comes to these. If you're not giving it enough nutrients, there's going to be nutrient deficiency, and this plant I feel like is already prone to dropping older leaves really quickly. So you're gonna want to keep up with those nutrients so that it wants to keep those older leaves more, or it doesn't need to drop those older leaves as much, I guess. And then light also helps with that. If it doesn't have enough light to keep up with all of this variegation as well, and the older leaves, it's gonna keep dropping those as well. If you don't have a Tradescantia, I recommend it. I've really been wanting to get, there's one at my job that's like really furry. I really want to get that one, like so badly, but it can wait. I don't feel the need to like get a whole bunch of plants right now, especially with all of these that I've brought into my collection. It's kind of like, okay, I need to calm down. The next video that I featured with some new plants is my Botanicas video. I got 3, well, kind of 4 plants. I got 3 terrarium begonia, and then I got like some cuttings from them, some Micans cuttings. I'm gonna start off with the begonias first. My Botanicas Vesuvius, I don't want to take them out because they aren't fully adjusted to my ambient conditions. The Begonia Vesuvius I feel like is the closest to being acclimated to my room conditions. I don't think I'm going to fully acclimate them just because I know that during the winter they are going to struggle. And so I just kind of want to still keep them in some ambient humidity, but not completely acclimate them into like my room conditions. But yeah, the Botanicas Vesuvius is doing pretty okay from what I can see. I'm really hoping that this one makes it. I'm hoping that I sort of get a grasp of them. Yeah, I'm really happy with this one, you guys. I really do love the Vesuvius. It has such a like cosmic look to it, and I enjoy it so much. It did give me a new leaf actually, and I think it's actually in the process of throwing out another one. I'll insert some b-roll of that so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. And then the next 2 are the Botanicas 3 and the Botanicas 10. They both kind of died back to stumps. Like, I think the Botanicas 10 I got a cutting from, and then that cutting just ended up rotting. Like, I think I just didn't change the water, honestly. I don't know what was going on, but it rotted. It just kept like rotting up the stem, and so it just didn't end up making it. And which kind of sucks. Like, I really was like so confident, like, oh, if this dies, like I'm gonna have a backup cutting. That didn't end up working out. It just kind of flopped and didn't work. But yeah, that one died back to a stump. That stump ended up rotting, and so I threw that away. Botanicas 3, however, I still have that one. I watched Wild Fern's video on, like, I think it was like her updates or something, and she showed her terrarium begonia that she got from Botanicas. She was like talking about how she put it in like a plastic bag to like revive it a little bit. And so I was like, okay, because I was just leaving the stumps out in like my ambient humidity. I was like, they'll just get accustomed to it this way. Like, whatever they grow will just be, you know, acclimated to my outdoor ambient, not outdoor, but like my room conditions. Yeah, I decided after the Botanicas 10 sort of was thrown away, I decided to try and give this a little bit more humidity. Another reason why I decided to keep them in my room conditions as well was because the last time that I tried to still keep it in a very humid space, the like stump ended up rotting even lower. So I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't keep it in humidity, or in like a humidity dome or in the terrarium. Maybe I'll actually move my Botanicas 3 down where my Vesuvius is. I feel like it could sprout something new there. I don't feel like very like pressured to try and keep them alive because they are my first terrarium begonia, and it's not that I'm like purposely trying to kill them. I'm just sort of taking everything that I'm learning as what it is, like a lesson for me to do better and understand these terrarium begonia more the more that I am like growing them or rehabbing them, whatever it may be. Because like I said before, I do want more in my collection. Not right now. I feel like right now I just need to take a breather from buying plants. As long as my Vesuvius is alive, I will feel okay. I will feel safe. I will feel okay with where I'm at with these plants. The Micans cuttings that I got ended up rooting up really quickly, like so quickly. Within like a week, I think it was already throwing out like secondary roots, and so some of those cuttings I did pot up into my little leca jar. This plant before looked like trash. Like, it literally looked so scraggly and weird, and so adding in these Botanicas cuttings actually really helped a lot. If you purchase from Botanicas, get yourself some Micans cuttings. I think it's like a couple cents, and I got the one that gives you 5 and they gave me 7, so like literally the best. I am like such a big fan of Botanicas now. Oh my god, you guys, I love their Micans. It's just so rich in the color and so soft as well. Oh god, the next plant that I showed in this video was my Hoya bilobata, which took a very steep downfall. I got it as like a big 6-inch planter. I split it up. I put a good chunk of it into my UFO planter, which I freaking loved that like combination. It was just so beautiful. And then I split the other part into like 3, I think. One of them was for my boyfriend's mom, and then the other 2 were for like my friends. I ended up overwatering every single piece of that plant, and I had like a couple cuttings left. I first put them in water. The water was just not working out. The water kept making them rot even more. So I moved it into my terrarium, whatever you want to call it, where my Vesuvius is. They rooted up so quickly. I repotted them into pond, and then I overwatered that. So yeah, no longer have that plant. I have put this back on my wish list because I think that I need that plant. Like, no matter what, I will always appreciate that plant for what it is, and I just really like that plant. Normally when I see Hoya, I don't really think to have them in like a big basket. That one, however, I want a big basket of that one. Like, I would die for a big basket of Hoya bilovata. The next plant that I showed in this video was my orchid, my Phalaenopsis orchid. My boyfriend got me this, and if you can see, I actually cut off the blooms today because it literally, let me grab it. This is what it looks like. It literally has no roots whatsoever. It has one. And so I'm trying out this method of trying to get it rerooted. It really did pain me to cut off those blooms because this plant, I don't remember the name. If I can find the video that I watched Kevin's video on like moving his orchids to leca, which is probably what I'm going to do after this, if I'm being honest. He has this orchid as well, and apparently it's the orchid that keeps the blooms on the longest. So I don't think there would have been a point for me, like, if I left those blooms on, this plant would have died. I know it would have died because it doesn't have any roots to absorb water. It literally has one, and it's like broken and cracked, and it kind of looks like it's rotting a little bit. And you can see how like dehydrated these leaves are. Like, they're really, really floppy, and when I got it, they were like stiff as heck. I knew that if I kept on those blooms, if I let them go until they started to die off, which they are starting to die off very, very slowly, like really, really slowly. I think one of the blooms is like starting to get like these weird spots on it, and that's it. I knew if I left those on, this was going to die because this plant doesn't have the roots to give water to the leaves, and so it's not even going to be able to keep up with those blooms as well. If I left the blooms on and moved it into this situation, 1, it would be toppling over like crazy, and 2, I don't think it would focus completely on growing roots. So I just decided to cut them off, and I just really wanted to focus its attention on the roots on this plant itself. And it'll grow blooms later on. I'm not like, the blooms will come again. I know they will. I just really want this plant to survive. My boyfriend has gifted me 2 plants now. This is the 2nd plant. And I really don't want to kill this plant just because, well, 1, I really, really wanted an orchid. After I experienced my brother's orchid, I was dying to get one. So this was just perfect timing. And 2, it's a freaking gift, and it's from him as well. So it's definitely special to me, and I don't want to let this die. I did watch a video on like how to reroot it, so I'm sort of trying that. So I think it'll do okay, and I'm hoping that this bounces back. The next one that I have to show is my Brazilian rain tree, which they're all closed right now because I have it in an area that doesn't have a lot of light. The last time I showed this one, it was in my updates actually. I showed that I was trying to do like some bonsai stuff with it, which I actually stopped doing for now just because I do want to understand bonsai a little bit more, and I didn't really know where I was going with this plant. Like, I didn't know where, like, I didn't know what form I wanted it in yet, and I still don't quite understand bonsai as much as I would like to like fully be prepared to start it. So I am going to do bonsai on this later on. It seems really, really happy. It's actually throwing out like little pups in the soil. I didn't even know that they could do that. There's at least 2 of them in here. There's one right there. Oh yeah, and then the other one is right here. You can see it without the glare. So yeah, I feel like this is really happy. I do have it in no drainage. This thing would dry out like crazy, and I just feel like it's gonna gonna benefit from being in no drainage just because of how thirsty it is. Yeah, nothing else to really say about this. I really do love this plant and I don't regret getting it. It's a very unique plant and I love that I have it in my collection. I don't regret making this purchase whatsoever. The next plant that I have to show you guys is my Hoya obovata. This plant, kind of slow growing. From what I've heard, it's not normally this slow growing. I'm not sure why. Right now I actually think it needs water, so that's probably why. But yeah, the leaves are kind of flimsy a little bit, so I am gonna water this today. I don't know, I kind of just expected this to be a little bit more fast growing, and it's not that I'm like mad at it, it's just kind of like my expectations were set way too high for this plant. But I am, you know, it still looks exactly the same. I'm really excited to have this plant though. I do want to get those more like hockey puck shaped leaves and I can't wait. This vine actually has been growing very, very slightly. You can kind of see that like protrusion on the top, this little piece that's coming up. I still don't know where to really put this, like as in like lighting wise. I kind of have it on this bottom shelf. This bottom shelf only has one grow light, so it's a lot less light than the top one, and I kind of have it all the way on the like bottom of the shelf. Like I don't have it up on anything, I don't have it on a pedestal. So we'll kind of see how it goes from there. Maybe I do need to give it more light just so that it's growing a little bit more. The next plant that I showed was my Ripsalis bassifera, which I have in multiple like cutting things because I did overwater this, and so it rotted really, really quickly. And so what is up with me overwatering stuff? I need to chill. Like I feel like I get ahead of myself and then I think, oh my god, it needs water. So I'll water it, and then I usually end up overwatering the plants that have like the more plump leaves, like my Hoya bilobata, and then it just kind of rots everything. And so yeah, I have so many propagations of this, which I'm not mad. I am going to get like an even fuller pot. These are in pon, which seem to be rooting up really, really good. I don't know if you guys can see any of those roots, but I am not mad at this. I would love to have a big full pot of this. You guys can also see this one. It has so many roots, so many roots. And then this one as well. This one has the most cuttings and they are starting to root up a little bit from what I can see. And then I also have some just in perlite. I also have my, I completely forgot about this one. My, oh god, Easter cactus. I also have it in here and it's actually rooted in a really weird way. I'll pop in the picture. I'm just leaving it there. It's rooted into that leca, so I didn't want to mess with it or like break any roots off. From what I saw, it is starting to root up, which makes me happy. And then a lot of these plants in here as well are also starting to root up. I did put like the smaller cuttings in here, and then you can kind of see like the difference. Like these are really, really long, and then these are just short and stubby, so I decided to put them in here. The next video that I featured some new plants in was this one. This like plant haul was sort of my early birthday gift to myself. Yeah, I definitely got quite a few plants, more than I think I really realized. Yeah, the first one I showed in that video was this Hoya caudata, which I do not regret. The only thing that I will say is with this plant, I don't really know where to go, like design wise. I don't want like a full pot of this. At least I don't think I do. I can't really imagine what that would look like, to be honest, but I'm not sure where this plant is really going to grow further because I kind of just enjoy for what it is right now. I did put it in a kokedama, which I feel happy with just because I know that this plant can dry out a little bit more. So I feel a lot better about having it in this. Yeah, it hasn't really given me any new leaves, but it is growing amazing vines. They're kind of just like wrapped around themselves, you can see there. The next one that I showed in that video was my Micans. This actually needs water. It's so freaking light. This one, look at how big this is. This is only half of it, by the way, and here's the other half. So you can imagine how like big and bushy this was. This one is in a Vanda basket above my window, so it gets some really, really good light in the morning, especially. I think it gets almost like direct sunlight. So I love this so much. I love how it like faces. It just like faces where the sun and the light is coming from. Like pothos could never. I just love it so much. I love micans. I have talked about it countless times before. I'm really happy that this one has been successful with me. I do see some new root growth in here, so I am like not complaining whatsoever. I have been getting some consistent new growth, as you guys can see. That one is kind of small, but this one I just got this leaf and then it pushed out this leaf and now it's working on another one. With the Botanica's cuttings that I got, I feel a lot more confident about propagating this. I feel like I know what to do right. I know what to provide this plant with to get it to root up, and so I feel really happy to have this in my collection. And I got it for 40 bucks. Like, I feel like for me that is such a steal, because the like 4-inch pots, I got it, was it an 8-inch? I think it was a 6-inch pot, but it needed to be sized up to an 8-inch. The other ones that I've seen that are big like this are usually like $70. Like, they're pretty up there. And so I am not complaining whatsoever about this plant. I love it so much. And I did, again, split it into two. I have this one. This one has drainage in my Vanda basket, and this one has no drainage. And this isn't to like compare the two, because I did get a smaller plant in here since it's a smaller pot. So there is definitely a lot more of the plant in this. This isn't to like show that no drainage is bad, because it's really not. This hasn't been in here for that long either. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about this one, because this one has definitely had some challenges, more than that one. This one, I had it in drainage in like my, it's like a ceramic pot that I thrifted. It doesn't have any drainage holes, but I put it in a plastic pot inside that did have a drainage hole, and that ceramic pot has like a weird cone in the center, so it was just really weird to like water this. I was really scared to like pull it out, because anytime I would pull it out, substrate would fall out of that center hole, because it was a pretty big gaping hole in the center. And so I just ended up, I think I underwatered this, then I overwatered it. And then from there, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stick it in no drainage. I have it in a really chunky mix. I have leca, cocoa bark, and then a lot of perlite in here. It is giving me some new root growth over here. If you guys can see that without the glare. Like, I am so obsessed with this plant. I don't mind it whatsoever. I do think that I am going to chop it soon, just because I really want it a lot fuller. But I kind of want to give it a chance to bounce back first before I like make any rational decisions on like chopping it and stuff. The next one that I got is this variegated Maranta, which when I showed you guys it, it was infested with mealybugs. I'm not sure that it still has them. I have been keeping it separate. I did have some like sort of pop up here and there. And then I just decided to, one, repot it, and then to like give it a full drench. I think I did like 50-50. I did 50% alcohol and then 50% water, because I'm honestly just tired of these mealybugs. I freaking hate it. I have to like look at this thing every couple of days, and then it's also really hard on this plant, especially because they have so many places to hide, like in the nooks and crannies of these nodes and stuff like that, and the petioles. It is just gross and disgusting, so I'm really hoping I got rid of them all. When I showed you guys that, it looked a lot more fuller than this, and that's because some of the leaves have been falling off just due to the pest treatment, and then a lot of the leaves actually, or a lot of the vines kept like falling off. Like, I remember I woke up one day and there was just a vine laying on my desk, like broken off, and I'm pretty sure it was Lila, but it's not that really matters. It's just how easily they kind of just like flick off. It's insane. But I do think I need to actually downsize it, just because I don't want to overwater this, and this one is actually a cutting, so it's not, I don't know what's going on there, honestly. This is actually a regular, like, non-variegated Maranta. My boyfriend's mom gave me this, and I didn't really consider this a new plant, but it is technically a new plant. It was actually gifted to me. It came to me as like one vine, and it had multiple nodes on it, so I chopped those nodes, and this is where it's at. It's really small, but I have faith that this is gonna grow big and beautiful. It comes from an amazing specimen. My boyfriend's mom's plant is like, her leaves are the size of my hand, probably the size of my head, actually. I literally probably the size of my head. And hers flowers for her constantly, so I know that thing is happy. I actually do want to give her a cutting of like the variegated one. This is another thing that I haven't really realized with pests, it stops me from wanting to gift plant or wanting to gift cuttings or just the plant itself. Not that I want to gift the whole plant because I love this plant. It would probably just be a couple cuttings. But I don't want to give her a pest-ridden plant. Like, I really, really don't. And I have been wanting to give her a cutting of this one so, so badly because I know for a fact that this is going to grow amazingly for her no matter what. Like, I can almost guarantee you guys, like, if I gave this to her, she would have it, like, big and beautiful within, like, a year. Oh my god. Anyways, I'm just getting on a freaking tangent now. But yeah, she did gift me this one. The next one that I showed you guys was my Alocasia Dragon Scale, which is now in propagation. Yeah, this did get root rot really, really quickly after that whole video, which I kind of expected it to be honest. I don't even know why I was growing it in soil. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I really want to make an effort to understand Alocasia a lot more, just because I feel like I'm tired of struggling with them, and I do really want this plant in my collection. Like, I love these, like, I love this so much. The texture, the cardboardness, the, like, belateness, I really do love it. And so I am trying to reroot this. I've noticed with alocasias, I struggle a little bit to root them in water. I don't know if it's just me, because they will just constantly rot. Like, the rhizome will just rot. And so I moved it into like this leca reservoir thing. The reservoir is here and the rhizome is like barely touching the reservoir, but it's just surrounded by that moisture. I should actually put a cling wrap on this now that I think of it. But I also have 2 corms of this as well, and it's in a shallow bowl method with my Aslanii corm, which I'm grateful that I have corms of this, but again, I just really want to make an effort to understand alocasias a little bit more, especially for my job. I feel like people are constantly asking me about alocasias and I just don't really know what to say, because I just don't feel fully comfortable with alocasias at all, if I'm being honest. I think the only one I feel really comfortable with is my fried egg. And I feel like the difference between the fried egg and like these more like dragon scale, these really leathery, thick-leaved alocasias, is the fried egg likes moisture consistently because of how thin the leaves are, but these have a little bit thicker leaves, so I feel like they can sort of handle drying out a little bit in between watering, not too drastically, but I feel like they definitely can, and then being watered again. And I feel like I just don't really understand that. But yeah, this is not going to go in soil again, ever. I don't think I'm ever going to grow an alocasia in soil because it just doesn't work. It really just doesn't work. So I've actually thought about trying to grow this one in leca. I wouldn't mind that as long as it's really, really happy. I would not mind that whatsoever. So yeah. The next one that I showed was my Maidenhair Fern. I love this plant, and it's just so frilly and cute, and I'm obsessed. I really do enjoy this plant for what it is, and I can't describe the passion that I have for this plant. Recently I've actually heard people like say that they can't keep this in like low humidity. Like I went to like a festival, which you guys will see a video very, very soon on that. I went to a festival for like plants, and I was like asking the shop if they had this, and they were like, oh no, we don't have the high humidity. We don't have high enough humidity for it. And so I was just kind of like, okay, I just kind of took that and just sort of left, because I was like, I don't really have mine in high humidity and it's growing fine. I think that the only thing that I will say is it could give you smaller leaves in lower humidity. I think I mentioned this in that video as well, but I'm just not, I don't feel fully confident enough to be like, yeah, that's exactly what happens when you have it in low humidity. It does have growth, like it does have a lot of new fronds at the bottom, so I guess we'll see how those grow out. They don't look too long. Yeah, I have also been repotting this quite a bit. I repotted it into the vessel that my Maranta was in. Didn't like it in there. It was just going to dry out way too much. So I moved it back into this one. And that could also be stunting the growth. So I kind of just want to let it be and let it figure itself out. It also does have a lot of new root growth. I don't know if you guys can even see that, but there is so much root growth in this vessel. Every time I've repotted it, I've seen like the new ends of the, you can kind of see one right there. Hopefully you guys will be able to see it. Not entirely sure. But this thing has been throwing out roots like crazy, and I believe that it is enjoying this no drainage vessel. So I'm just gonna let it be for a while, and we'll see what the new growth brings. I don't think I'd mind if it's giving me smaller leaves like this. Like if they're like this size, I don't mind that whatsoever. I do really enjoy the like big leaves like this, and then when they overlap it's just so beautiful. But if that's what I'm getting for what I'm giving it, I don't mind it whatsoever. Okay, those are all of my new plants and all of the updates. I am going to clean up a little bit just so that I have the full capacity to show you guys my new plants that I got. Okay, so I finished putting everything away. Now to get into the new plants that I got. Again, May was kind of a free-for-all just because it was kind of my birthday. Not saying that that's like okay, but I think looking back now, I don't regret any of the purchases, but I do wish I would have held back a little bit, because it's not like these plants are leaving the market. Like it's not like they're here and then they're gone, you know, like they're always going to be on the market. So I just need to calm down. Yeah, so I'm gonna start off with the plants that I bought with my own money, just because I feel like the ones that were gifts are a little bit more exciting. The first plant that I got is this sugar vine. I have been wanting a sugar vine for so long. They're just so cute and frilly, and it kind of reminds me of like the maidenhair fern a little bit, just because of how like, oh my god, it's just so cute. I really do love this, and I like how dark the leaves get too. Like you can see back here, they're just so rich. And this is actually a cissus, which after the Cissus amazonica, I am kind of like really into cissus. Like I want to experience this genus a little bit more. I feel like I have fun with this genus. Like I know a lot about it. They're actually related to grapes, which is really, really cool. They don't like wet feet, and I think this actually needs a water today. I can kind of wait. This was the first one I got. I got this for $6, so I was like, I'm not passing up on that. I want this plant. And so I got it, and it's so freaking cute. I love this so much. I do have it in this cute little pot that I thrifted, and it's just adorable. The next plant that I got is this Stephania suberosa. I will pop in a picture of what the leaves look like. This is my first Codex plant ever, and I actually had it in no drainage for a little bit, and I kind of started to underwater it just because I was scared that I was going to oversaturate this a little bit too much for its liking. And so I put it in this pot, which I actually got at a yard sale, and I just love the finish on this. There was actually 2 of them, and I only got this one just because I was like, I don't really need 2 of them. And so yeah, now I do have it in drainage holes. Here, let me pull it out before this thing freaking... Yeah, I do have it in drainage holes. It has like a little bit of a leca reservoir at the bottom, just so that it's not sitting in water or whatever. It does have multiple vines. One of them actually fell off. There was like a really tall one that was like reaching towards the light. It actually fell off, and I think that was just due to my underwatering. But I feel like it's happy now. It's actually kind of thirsty, if I'm being honest. But again, I'm just really trying to not overwater this, and it actually is growing roots. I wish I had taken a picture, but it came to me with like a couple of roots. It didn't have too much. I think it maybe had like 3. And then the last time that I pulled it out, I did notice quite a few more, or at least they were longer, and they did have black ends. So I knew that I was kind of underwatering a little bit. There wasn't any moisture for those new root ends to sort of seek out, but I'm happy with this setup. I love it, and I can't wait to experience the leaves. I can already kind of see this one right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't want to touch it, but this one right here is gonna start to sprout its leaves first. I feel like it's the one that's like opening up a little bit more, and I love it so much. I also picked this one specifically for the shape of the Codex. I really did like these like little swirls that it had. It kind of reminded me of like a log of wood, and I love it. I don't regret getting this one. This one I did get at PLHC. I just feel really happy with this, and I feel like it's very... Codex plants are really like aesthetically pleasing, I guess, just because they kind of grow as sculptures. Like, first of all, the Codex is a sculpture in its own, and then as the vines sort of grow out, it's just so beautiful, and I love it so much. All right, the next two plants, I don't even know which one to start with. I guess I'll start with this one. That was my stomach. I am so sorry, you guys. I am starving, but I'm trying to finish up this video so I can go eat. The first one that I got is this. My friend actually got this for me. This is a Wavy No ID from Russo Plant Care, which I've actually already showed on my Instagram. The lower leaves are getting like this fungal stuff, which is kind of annoying. This leaf has it as well, but it's just right here, and I don't know why. Like, I think I watered this once, and ever since then I haven't really touched it. And I did switch it into a clear vessel just so I can see what's really going on down in the roots. I tried not to mess with it too much. It did give me this new leaf, which was already sort of sprouting out when I first received it, and I love it so much. In the light, it has like this blue iridescence to it. I wish I could photograph it. I tried to photograph it, and I think I like slightly caught it, but the camera just does not do it justice whatsoever. I love this so much. I believe he crossed this. He doesn't even know what he crossed this with, which I'm not like mad at, but from what I can see, it's definitely a Forgetii cross. I feel like this kind of just crosses off every single box: the Magnificum, Forgetii, and then some Luxurians. It does have some like slight belateness in the lower leaves. You can kind of see it like right here. So that's kind of what makes me think it could be Lux. And then also the squared petioles, but I think that Magnificum can also have squared petioles. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys, I am so happy to have this in my collection, and I do want to size this up. I'm gonna do my best to follow in his footsteps. I'm not gonna repot this whatsoever. I'm going to leave it in here for as long as it needs. We'll see how long that is, and I do have it in sort of the same conditions that he does. Like, I have it right underneath my Barina lights in my propagation corner, and then I have like 30 to like 50-ish humidity, maybe 50 on a good day, but from the last time I checked, I should actually check today. I think I'm gonna do that today. It's because I have to turn on my Apple HomePod to see like what humidity it tells me, and I don't really use it that often, so it's not always plugged in, but I am going to check that today. The last time I checked, it was at 37% humidity, and today it's gonna be friggin' hot, so I feel like the humidity could definitely be a little bit more. Maybe I'll even open my window just to allow some of that heat and humidity in. I really do like Russo Plant Care just because he makes some really, really beautiful hybrids, and they're pretty affordable. Like, they're not like they are seedlings or like smaller plants, so it's not. Besides this one wasn't too small. In the picture it was literally just these 3 leaves, so it's not anything too small, but he has some really good prices for his stuff. Like, I think he did like a subsignatum crossed with like a Pappy crossed with like a Warrock, which I can't even imagine what that would look like. I just imagine like the like open sinus, like flat, and then a long leaf. I feel like that would be so pretty. Like, oh my god, I'm kind of regretting not getting one now, but yeah, his crosses are pretty inexpensive, so if you guys are looking to get into anthuriums, definitely give him a follow. He also has some amazing moss poles and things like that. Like, literally he has grow lights. They almost look like Soltech Solutions grow lights. You guys, my stomach. I've actually been wanting to get one, so maybe I will soon, but with all of these plant purchases, I just kind of have to calm down a little bit. But yeah, if you guys again are interested, definitely check out Russo Plant Care. I got a Florida Beauty. My sister and one of our close friends actually bought this for me, and I was like watching my wishlist plant video that I made in like the beginning of the year, and this was one of the plants on there, which is kind of insane. Same with this one, kind of. There was an anthurium on there, like a Crystal Lux, I think, and I feel like I kind of manifested this, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know how, but I just knew going to PLHC that I was going to get this, whether I was going to purchase it or someone else was going to purchase it for me. I was like, oh my god, you guys, I'm just so happy that I have this. And this was the leaf that it came to me with. When I first got it, it was like so tiny, you guys. It was like this big, and you can see how like much it sized up. And then also this leaf was also already in the cataphil when I got it. And when I got this leaf, it was like, oh, I can actually kind of see where the petiole is. So maybe this leaf isn't going to be that big. Yeah, when I first got it, the leaf was only like that much, like poking out of the caterpillar. But I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see the variegation and just the leaf shape, you guys. They also had like a big giant specimen. I wish I took a picture. Every time I see a plant that I like, I need to take a picture so that I can show you guys, because they had a giant specimen of this one that was like a lot more mature. Like it had like the like lobes that have like the two, like the double lobes. I don't know what you would call that, but it just had like those really big mature Florida Beauty leaves. And oh my god, I'm so happy that I have this, and it's in my butt mug. It's in such a cute design. I freaking love it. And also it's been rooting up like crazy. Let me actually pull it out so I can show you guys. Bam! Look at all those roots. Oh, look at all those roots. Ow. Just pulled my hair. Look at all these roots. It's going crazy. And then also in the moss pole, it has these gigantic, juicy, freaking like worm-sized leaves. Roots. Jesus. So yeah, I freaking love that so much, and I just am so happy to have this in my collection. And I can already see that this is gonna grow amazingly. I have really been making it a point, and this is something that Russo Plant Care actually taught me, or like not taught me, but I saw that he was doing it, and I see how big his plants are. And Russo Plant Care actually, like, every time he repots, he does not mess with the roots. He simply just grabs it and sticks it into like the bigger pot that he wants. I am going to try and make it a point to do that with my plants, because you guys see how gigantic his plants are, and he grows them in like ambient conditions. He has them in like 30 to 50% humidity, I think, depending on the specimens maybe. At least with this one, that's the conditions that it was in. He does live in California, so I guess it's a little bit different, but I feel like there isn't really a need to be so aggressive with your root system. And if you are, like, I'm not by any means continue what you're doing. Like, I just feel like for what I see in Russo Plant Care, I feel like that's the one thing that I can apply to my care and my plant collection. Why did it take me so long to realize what that I was gonna say? And so yeah, I really want to try and keep that consistent across the board. I really want to try to just not mess with my roots every time I repot them. Really just let the plant grow into the substrate itself, and we'll see where that gets me. And I am really going to try and do that with this one and with my Florida Beauty, and just with any plant that I can apply it to, I'm going to apply that. Alright, you guys, that is it for today's video. I still have to film like a little bit of another video, so that is that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys think about all of the growth that I've had. I feel like the El Choco is definitely the one that I'm like the most proud of right now, and I just feel so content with that plant in general. But let me know any new plants that you guys are getting into. I feel like I have really sort of like discovered my new genera, whatever. I have gotten into Hoya, I have gotten into Codex plants, into Anthurium, Cissus, like literally I feel so full, like Ripsalis, oh my god, I just feel so full with what's in my collection right now, and I feel very happy with where things are at and how things are going. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.